How about a nice little Sunday video? I don't know. I don't upload on the weekends very often, but I've got time today, and I figured why not do a video about a release that came out this last Friday on the 17th of May. Probably one of the most hyped up releases to come out for death metal this year, and whether you're a fan or not, you either hate it or you love it, and that is the new Gatecreeper album, Dark Superstition, out on Nuclear Blast Records. So this is their first release since signing to Nuclear Blast like 2 years ago almost now. Their third full-length album. Band is out of Arizona. I think they're still out of Arizona. I'm pretty sure they're all from Arizona. Um, and yeah, love them or hate them, Gatecreeper is one of those death metal bands that's very divisive in the scene. Either people will say that they're just super hyped up and boring and they don't understand why people like them so much, and then they're not real death metal, which we'll get to that in a minute. And then there's people who just, really, really like them. I think they have a pretty diehard fan base, similar to other bands like 200 Stab Wounds, Sing with Sugarbog. I'm missing one. Frozen Soul. That's the style of divisiveness that Gatecreeper has, and that's not by their choice by any means. So I had no intentions of ordering this album quite yet. I admittedly had a Amazon gift card, and that's what I used it for, so I got this off of Amazon. This is the purple vinyl that was limited to 3,500 copies. There was probably like 7 other variants of this album, and I know that Closed Casket Activities also released their own variant of this album. But before I talk about the music, let me show you the vinyl. I own all of their other albums, their other 2 albums, and then their EP that they put out on Closed Casket a couple of years ago. I've always been a big fan of Gatecreeper. I'm unapologetically a big fan of them. I think they're a great band. I think they're entertaining and they're phenomenal live. I think that they've done amazing things for the death metal scene that needs to be celebrated. There are people who've never listened to death metal before that heard Gatecreeper and said they liked death metal after this. I think that's great because the only way to keep death metal alive and moving forward is having bands that get popular and get more people's ears listening to death metal. If we stick to only listening to old school death metal, not allowing new fans to come into the scene, all that gatekeeping shit that people do, like, the genre is going to die. Like, that's just the overall, like, that's just it. There you go. Like, that's what's going to happen. So I've done my best to promote newer bands on here. Yes, I promote mostly underground death metal, mostly, but there are some times where I do bring up the more popular bands, and the popular bands now are the ones that were underground and nobody knew about back in the day. Like, nobody listened to Entombed. Nobody knew who the fuck they were when they were first coming out. Only people within the scene knew. Same thing with like Dismember and Death. Like all those bands. I mean, Death obviously got huge and people know who they are now, but that's how it all starts. So my biggest thing about success within death metal, I don't understand why people hate on it so much. I mean, I understand if they don't like the music. 100%. Like, yeah, okay, you don't like music. That's totally valid. Like, nobody's saying you have to like it. You have to listen to it. But hating on the success of others is just going to end up, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it just happens, And yeah, there are some bands that definitely deserve the success too. And hopefully their time comes. But anyway, my little tangent. Hate on success and success will hate on you is the motto that I live by in my life. I choose not to get upset unless I feel like somebody really, really doesn't deserve the success, but that's very, very rare, especially when it comes to music. So, I just noticed that they've got a little bit of a like a printing issue on my jacket. It's going to be really hard to see on camera, but it looks like possibly another something with ink on it got stuck to it because there's like an ink mark right here. Interesting. Anyway, here's the album cover. I absolutely love this album cover. I forgot who the artist was. I'll find out in a minute because it's on the liner notes. And then here's the back. It's a pretty standard Nuclear Blast pressing. Nothing fantastic. It's just a straight jacket. No nothing, no spot gloss, no embossing, nothing. I got this for $20 on Amazon with Prime free shipping. I figured, you know what, that's a good use of my gift card that I had on my account. So here's the printed inner sheet, the similar layouts across the board, and then the other side, the pictures of the band members. They have a newer lineup since their last album, Deserted. I think they added a new guitarist. Nate Garrett from Spirit Adrift used to be in Gatecreeper when I saw them live back in 2019 after Deserted, shortly after Deserted came out. He was in the band and I got to see him live, so that was awesome. But as you know, he's in Spirit Adrift now. He also has an amazing YouTube channel, so go check that out as well. I love his YouTube channel. He talks about great stuff on there, and he also promotes the underground scene, which is fantastic. We need more ambassadors like that. So the artist on here is somebody who I'm not too familiar with, Lena Richter. I think that's how you say her last name. His last name, her. I should probably find out the gender. Not that it matters, but I don't want to be an asshole and say it wrong. Art. I don't know. I'm assuming it's a woman. I'm probably completely wrong. Yeah, it's a woman. Okay, there we go. Looked up her Instagram. Yeah, you never know. You never know. Not that it matters. But anyway, phenomenal artwork on here. I love that art. And I think it goes really well with the overall theme of this album, which is a very dark theme. A lot of the lyrics on this album is pretty dark, which goes across pretty much the themes across the board for Gatecreeper. So it is relatively short listen. It's a 37-minute long album, which is not too bad. 10 tracks. It goes quick. I've listened to this album probably 10 times in the last couple of days. I had it earlier, about a week before the album came out. I finally listened to it. So the first track on here that I heard was Caught in the Treads. And that was like the first single. And I remember not really caring too much for it. Didn't think much of it. It was just kind of like, I need to hear the rest of the album. And then I didn't pay much attention to it after that. I didn't hear any of the other singles. So I'm coming into this relatively blind. I also just got, like I said, just the plain purple edition of the record. And that's what it looks like. It's just a basic sticker of the Gatecreepers logo there. Beautiful color. I think it's a cool color. I mean, like I said, there's probably like 15 other color variants that they've pressed. But that's just the one that I got through Amazon. And Amazon doesn't usually specify what color variant it is, unless for some reason somebody writes it in like the comments or something. But anyway, okay, so overall impressions of this album. I was such a big fan of Deserted. I really loved that album. And then Sonoran Deprivation, their first album. I loved those two albums. And then they came in swinging with this EP on Closed Casket Activities called Unexpected Reality. That was like a death grind / doom album. One side was like all death grind, the other side was just a doom song. I was such a fan of that, and I was kind of hoping that they would maybe carry on that sound, some of those sounds into this album, and they didn't. So I really, at first I didn't really care too much for the album when I first listened to it. I was like, yeah, you know, some of it's okay. Some of it sounds, it's just Gatecreeper, like nothing new. Nothing revolutionary here. They haven't done much different. But then after diving further into the album and listening to it several times over, yeah, there's some things here that they're definitely doing different. They've definitely gone way more melodic death metal. I know that every other reviewer on YouTube has already said that, like The Boys and Thrall's Metal and Robert from the Metal Meltdown has. Those are immediately the only two reviewers I've watched, so apologies if I didn't call you out. Generally, those are the only two reviews I do watch. I'm not a huge like YouTube reviewer watcher. I mean, if it's somebody who I know who randomly does an album review, I'll watch it. But for the most part, that's what they do. So I generally watch their videos first. I know that Banger TV did a review, but I didn't watch it. Sorry, guys. It is a very melodic death metal album, and it does sound a lot like Dismember. And I think that they've worked with members of Dismember or somebody from Dismember on this album. I don't know the exact details around that, so don't quote me on that, but I've seen that circulating in the social media space. And I think that's what I really like about this album. After listening to it several times within the last week and really, really soaking it in, I do think this is their best output that they've done since being a band. I think it's their best album. Um, and I was a huge fan of Deserted. And now I go back and listen to Deserted, and I think to myself, man, this is actually. I mean, it's still a good album, but I much prefer their newer one. I think that maybe just because it's fresh, and that's probably why. I mean, maybe a year from now, I might come back and say, "Nah, Desert is still my favorite album by them." Um, but there are a couple of things about some that I don't enjoy. And one thing is they really, like I said, they have that melodic death metal style to it. I really like the guitars. They're still the super hardcore HM2 guitars. They pretty much have just perfected that sound now. Like, that is just the Gatecreeper sound. And after a while, that sound gets to me. Like, I don't want to listen to that style of death metal anymore. I'm very much a person that really, really likes the more suffocating, dissonant style of death metal that I've been showing off lately on here. Like, Utter Tomb and Spectral Voice's new album, stuff like that. Like, that's what the mood I've been in. I also love brutal death metal, and I've been listening to that a ton lately. And then the old school style of death metal, where it's a little bit more raw sounding, and not so much HM2. The HM2 stuff can get kind of tiresome. I'm not gonna lie. I really, really have to be in the mood for just that style of death metal. Dismember is obviously one of my favorite death metal bands, but I admittedly don't want to listen to them sometimes because I want to listen to a different style of death metal, like similar to Entombed and stuff like that. So that's kind of my one criticism. This is all just me. All my thoughts. Obviously, not everybody feels the same way. I think it's got a strong album opener. I like the song Dead Star. I like the song Oblivion. The Black Curtain is such a good song. I'm a huge fan of that song. Masterpiece of Chaos is another great song. Superstitious, Visions, and then Chilling Aura. The first 6 songs on this album are very good. It's a very front-loaded album in that regards. A Chilling Aura is probably my favorite song on this album because Chase has such an aggressive, mean, and just aggressive and mean vocal style in that track, and he screams on it, and I love the scream on it so much. Same thing with A Masterpiece of Chaos, like another just a very aggressive song. Caught in the Treads, I'm not a huge fan of. I think maybe that's probably the more like basic kind of boring song on this album. Same thing with Flesh Habit. I don't care too much for like the gothic rock that they do on that song. I was not a huge fan of that song. I kind of, that's probably a skippable song for me. Just not my thing. And then Mistaken for Dead it's okay. I mean, it's still kind of a similar vibe on that song. And then Tears Fall from the Sky, which is a much more doomier style of song. They kind of bring that back a little bit, a more darker, doomier song. That's a really good song. I think it's a good album opener or album ender. So there's a couple tracks on here that I just don't really care much for, like Caught in the Treads, Flesh Habit, Mistaken for Dead. So unfortunately, the last half of this album, the last 4 songs, I really don't care too much for 3 of them. So it's not a perfect album for me, and I don't say that very often on here. But that doesn't mean I don't like the album. I actually really, really enjoy the album. It is a fun listen. That's my biggest take. It's a fun listen. It is good, and I think Chase's vocals are phenomenal on here. I know that Robert on the Metal Meltdown said he felt like he was doing too much with his voice, and it sounded like he might have been struggling. I don't feel that way at all. I think he really hones in on it on this album. He just really has this really aggressive and mean style of vocal on here that I didn't necessarily hear on his other albums that they've done. Some other criticism I've seen that I don't agree with and I don't understand where this is coming from. They said it sounds like a hardcore album. I don't hear any hardcore on this at all. So I don't know what I'm missing here. But I don't agree with that whatsoever at all. It sounds like a Swedish melodic death metal album with a couple of like gothic rock influences. A lot of people threw out a bunch of bands that it sounds similar to, like In Flames and Fate's Warning and all the like, gothic berg scene. And yeah, I mean all that's on here. Like you can tell all those influences are on this album. They toured with In Flames a while back, so there's probably some influences on here as well. But for the most part, it is a Gatecreeper who has gone melodic death metal, and I like it. I think it's good, and I think that was very much in the grand scheme of things of this album and the evolution of the writing of it, because you can kind of hear it in Deserted and just with what they were starting to do with their music style. So I don't think it wasn't a shock by any means when I listened to this album. So I really enjoy the album. I don't think it's a perfect album by any means. I don't think they've like revolutionized anything. I think that it's going to be it's an easy listen for somebody who's new to the death metal genre. 100%. If there was somebody who said, I'm new to death metal, I want to start off easy, I don't want to go completely all in, I just want to ease into it, I would definitely say, oh, hey, Gatecreeper is a good modern day band to listen to, and then I would probably give them Entombed's Left Hand Path. Because that was one of my gateway albums, over giving them like a Cannibal Corpse or Devourment album. Like that's not something I would give them right away for gateway. I mean, Cannibal Corpse is relatively gateway in regards to some of the like newer Corpse Grinder albums, but I wouldn't give them like Butchered at Birth right away. So anyway, I like the album. I think it's good. I'm unapologetically a Gatecreeper fan. If they come and tour to the Tampa area and I'm able to go out, I'm definitely going to go, because, man, I saw them at a dive bar in Tampa back in 2019 with Exhumed and Judiciary. Didn't know who the fuck Judiciary was, but they were pretty good. I liked them. Exhumed was excellent. And I think Necrot was on it, too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Necrot also played on it. And that was the first time I ever heard them, too. But it was a dive bar. There was like 50 people in it. I think that was it. And I went for Exhumed. That's who I wanted to go see. Didn't know who Gatecreeper was. Didn't know who Necrot was yet. Didn't know who Judiciary was. And when Gatecreeper played, I was blown away. And I was like directly in front of the band. Like I could feel Chase's spit on me. And Nate Garrett was like right in front of me. I have a bunch of awesome footage from it. And the band was so good live. They sounded so tight and so good. And they had this green coloring on the stage. And it sounds like that's what they just do as a whole. And it was a really good set. I became a fan after that. I bought the record that night. Chase was at the merch stand, said hi to him and talked to him for a few minutes. He was just a really cool guy. He hung out in the crowd throughout the whole entire show, just talked with people and hung out with them. And I became a fan after that. And Deserted had just come out. Like, it was pretty new. And they were on Relapse back then. So I became a fan of them after that. And I would definitely go see them again if they come into the area where I'm able to go see them, because I think that they put on a great show. Actually, are they on tour right now? I don't even remember. They might already be on tour. Let me look it up. Well, like I said, there's like 1,000 color variants of vinyl. So if you're looking for it, trust me, you're gonna be able. Like right now, I'm on Gatecreeper's website. They have a ghostly orange with white splatter variant. Plain black is still there. There's also a tape and a CD. I don't see that. This website is just to buy the album. Let's go to their social media and see if they're on tour. Yeah, they are. Or they recently were. They're still on tour with In Flames. Okay, so that tour is still going on with Creeping Death. So they're with Creeping Death and In Flames right now. Did they come to Tampa? I don't think they did. No, they did not. So if they go on another like headlining tour, which I hope they do, for this album, I'm definitely gonna see it, 100%. As long as they're playing in Los Angeles with Jarhead Fertilizer and Undeath on June 7th. That would be a fun show. Undeath is another one of those bands that people get all triggered about. Anyway, I've gone off a tangent. I like the album. I do. I like it a lot. Is it gonna be like the best album of the year? In my opinion, no. Some people might say yes. Um, I wasn't expecting much from it. I didn't have like a super high bar that I set, but they exceeded it for sure. Like I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. So I know that not everybody feels the same way. I'm not gonna rate it or anything like that. I don't usually do that when I do album reviews, but I like Gatecreeper. I like where they're going. Um, it'll be interesting to see how their music goes further on. I don't anticipate they're changing their sound a whole lot, but we'll see. I think Israel Garza is their newest guitarist. Yeah, he's the new guitarist on here. He is also from Judiciary, so that's funny. And then, like I said, Nate Garrett used to be on the band, but he is just doing Spirit of Drift now. I think that's the only band he has right now. I could be completely wrong about that. Let me know, Nate, if you watch this. But yeah, I really like this band. I think Chase's vocals are phenomenal. That's the true standout to me on this album. And then obviously a lot of the melodic guitar parts, they're really catchy. The hooks, everything is catchy about the album. So say what you want, but I like the album, and that's really all that I had to talk about today. Like I said, you can pretty much find it anywhere. I'm pretty sure Decibel probably put it out. I know Closed Casket has copies. I'm pretty sure Nuclear Blast probably still has a ton. It's easy to find. They've pressed so many of them, so it's not sold out at all. And there's some variants that probably are sold out, but for the most part, it's not going to be hard to find at all. So that's all that I have today, and I will see you guys in the next one.